Welcome to The Homeless Conservative, a show about principled politics for exhausted citizens like yourself. And I am your host, Blake Fisher. I'm a political junkie so that you don't have to be necessarily. And normally, political junkies live for nights like last night, Super Tuesday, or really tonight. I'm recording this at about midnight. But, you know, this one was kind of a snooze fest. We already knew what was going to happen. We knew Donald Trump was going to win most, if not all, the states. And it did turn out that Nikki Haley only won Vermont. And we knew Joe Biden was going up against some guy's name that we can't even remember. And so Dean Phillips, actually, I do remember it. But, you know, the truth is, like, neither one of them were going to walk away with much damage tonight. And if anything else, it's just further settled that Trump's going to be the nominee. And normally, Super Tuesday is an exciting night. We get to kind of see consolidation in a primary, and not so much. We already kind of knew that was going to happen. So it was less of a fun night to flip around cable news channels like I would normally do as the political junkie that I am. But instead, tonight, I got with my neighbor, Mackenzie. Mackenzie is my neighborhood friend, and we tend to talk about politics at the park while our kids are running around. And she's kind of a fellow political nerd like myself. Well, I shouldn't call her nerd. That's wrong. Political junkie, we'll say. We get a joy out of paying attention to politics. But we talk about in this episode how that's maybe happening less for us now. She seems a little less enthusiastic about it, a little more pessimistic about it. And so we'll talk about what Haley will do after this. We'll talk about the state of the Republican Party, whether she would vote for Trump or not in November. We talk about all this kind of stuff. It's just kind of how we're feeling about the Republican Party right now. So thank you for joining me on this episode. And here's my conversation with Mackenzie. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, because you are one of the more popular episodes, your past ones. So we're going to see if we can make that work again. If it might be you. Maybe you just take over the whole podcast. I'll just quit.
A dream.
Well, she'll be the homeless conservative from now on. This is Mackenzie. If you did not listen to our other episode, which would be very outdated at this point because we were talking about like a debate or something last time. But
yeah. So
we're still sticking with sort of GOP politics, but we're recording this on the evening of Super Tuesday. Not very Super Tuesday because
Super Snooze-day.
Yeah, it's not very exciting because I mean it's kind of a foregone conclusion that Trump's going to win all of these states probably. I mean, she is like less than a point behind in Vermont right now, and it looks like Utah polls have closed, I guess, in Utah, but not enough to call anything yet. So those are the only two states that she really had a chance of even potentially winning. You know, this will be released on Wednesday, so all the races will be called by then, I imagine. And whether she wins any or not, I mean, she's not any closer to actually winning the nomination. So I guess let's just start with that. Like, what do you think? What do you think she'll do after this? I mean, do you think she's sticking around, or do you think she's going to call it quits? I mean,
I think this is the end of the road for Nikki. I think she held out for Super Tuesday, which
I don't blame her.
Yeah, I don't either. I think she was trying to make a point. I think she's tried to make her point. I don't think her point is landing anymore. And at this point, what is the point of her campaign continuing after this?
So I think that some of the point is that she's still getting, I mean, I was just looking at some of the numbers, and like, obviously this is early because some of these polls have just closed or they're, you know, but I mean, she's got 20 to 40% in almost every state. The lowest one right now is Alabama, where she's got 13%. But, you know, the rest of them, she's in the 20s, 30s, 40s in some of them. And that is not insignificant in the sense that, you know, I realize we were like children when this happened, but in 92, when George H.W. Bush got challenged and someone got 30 to 40% of the vote, Pat Buchanan, I mean, that was like headline making news that an incumbent president lost 30 or 40% of the vote. You know, that was like, oh, this is disaster. And it was disaster for him come November. Of course, Ross Perot helps with that too as a third party. But
yes.
But like the point is like that was a headline making thing now. And I think it's a little funny that Trump's world is pretending that like that's not significant at all. But I think that's a significant number of people that are going, that's clearly a protest vote at this point. It's not even, oh, I think it might be competitive and Haley might win. That's like people like me that went to vote today to just be like, just want to make sure that I'm letting people know that I'm not happy with Trump being the nominee. If those people don't come back in November, I don't see how Trump can win by just completely. It's not just that he isn't getting those votes. It's that he's also like heaping scorn on anyone that supports her and really anyone else. I mean, this isn't about Nikki Haley as much as it is like she's the last person in the race still. It could have been Ron DeSantis. It could have been anyone else in the race. But I feel like telling people that they should just get out of the party if they're not going to support him, I don't think is a really good electoral. I don't think that makes a lot of sense for November and going forward. But I don't know.
No.
Right.
And
it's a bad strategy, Cotton.
I think her point was to say, hey, Trump, look at all of these voters who are not voting for you. And you've lost them in this party. They are voting for me. They're coming out to these primaries. They're voting for me, even though they know that, I probably won't be.
Right.
And so listen to them or try and take me in and let us work together. And he's not doing that.
But it doesn't even seem like she wants that. I mean, her rhetoric has changed from in the last few weeks, don't you think?
Because I think in response to his rhetoric, I think he's paid, has not reached out or.
Well, he's like saying her husband's. I mean, there's some pretty nasty stuff, right?
The husband thing, that I think was probably the end for Haley. But I think that, she is staying in to show him, hey, like, these are voters who are voting for me. They're not going to vote for you.
Right.
In the, general, you need to take a look at this party that basically abandoned you and that's coming out for me. And that's my only reason as to why she's still running.
Right.
To prove a point and to show that, like, the Republican Party, there are still people who want another candidate and who are not going to vote for Trump.
I heard an interesting way that it was put on a podcast the other day that was saying, traditionally, if you are running either against an incumbent or against sort of what we'd call establishment, because it's hilarious to me that Trump thinks he's not the establishment. He's literally putting his daughter-in-law as the co-chair of the RNC. Like, he is the establishment. Anyone that claims that MAGA is not establishment, they are the Republican Party now.
Totally agree.
And don't pretend you're not the establishment. You are. Mm-hmm. So anytime someone kind of goes with that, to go against that, even when they know they can't win, it's sort of like, hey, it's our turn next. So that was kind of, I think people would say that's kind of what the Bernie Sanders crowd felt like in 2016.
Yes.
Was, hey, we're next. Like, I know we're not going to win this one, but you have to pay attention to us, and we're probably next, and it's time to, like, pass it down kind of thing. And the same thing with, Barack Obama in 2004, it's kind of the similar thing. It's like he was this kind of fresh up and coming person. And so now I think traditionally what would have happened is he wouldn't have won that, but he ended up winning that as a, junior in 2008. He ends up being after only being a senator for 4 years. And so I don't think that there's a lot of, normally that happens and it's like, here's the new kind of up and coming part of the party. I don't think that's what's happening now, though, because it's kind of like Haley really represents more of like the old part of the party, but it's still, I think, an important part of the party that's doesn't look like all those people are going to come back for, if you look at polls. But I don't know that polls are right, but something like 30% of them are saying, no, I'm really not going to vote for Trump in November. I'm not going to come home like we normally expect them to.
But what do you think about polls that are saying that Trump is leading Biden, like even in swing states now?
Yeah, I think those are true because they've been consistent for like 6 months now. Really, the Pennsylvania is the only one that's kind of waffled a little bit. I think the rest of them have been like he's winning.
So do you believe those polls?
I do because I think that Biden's that, but I don't know that means. Here's the problem with those polls right now. They do a lot of them are hypothetical, just like. Biden versus Trump, and it's national. So it's like, and then when they look at specific state polls, one problem with it is that they can't exactly know what's going to happen third party wise.
Right. Because
No Labels is talking about maybe doing something, specifically if Trump's the nominee, which I mean, hello, it seems like he's going to be. I don't know why you wouldn't be already picking someone for that kind of thing. And I don't think Haley could be on No Labels because I think there's too much weirdness with the sore loser laws in some states that say if you run in the primary and lose, you can't run as an independent in the general. So she'd have to get on a different already established party, and I don't think that would, I don't know if that counts or not, because I don't know if No Labels is a party or are they running someone as an independent? I don't know enough about that part. I don't know enough about the state laws to know what would be allowed and what wouldn't be allowed. I do think it is interesting because Nikki Haley in those same polls like wallops Joe Biden. So like,
I know.
So, it does look like in those swing states, potentially Trump has an edge right now, but it's not a huge margin. It's like a point or two. It's the same thing as 2020 and 2016, honestly. It's like you are kind of putting a coin toss out there with like two almost, one's going to be 82, one's going to be 78 or whatever. Like two really old guys who I think one thing that's gone under the radar lately, because all the focus is on Biden's cognitive decline, I think Trump's declining.
Yeah, I've seen like some slips too. Yeah, but then he'll. I mean, but it's just not as bad as Biden. Biden's is so bad that Trump's looks like, oh, that's fine. Like he's just an old man.
I think the difference is that Trump, if you muted the television, wouldn't appear to be old. Does that make sense?
Yeah, agree.
But like Biden looks old just the way he walks, and he looks confused, and he seems old.
Yeah.
Trump is mostly when words are coming out of his mouth. I mean, he's confusing people all the time, and it's not look, I call my children the wrong name all the time. I also immediately realize that and
and he never catches it.
He never catches it, but then the next day when the press catches it, he's like, "Oh, I did it on purpose."
About it. Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, no, there's nothing funny about like confusing Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi. That's not even like a funny. It doesn't even make any sense. Like,
I know
it's not. So I mean, I think he's absolutely declined, and like he's like word salad. I think mostly it's because he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he talks about it anyway.
And he gets up there, he doesn't have anything prepared, and he just like will ramble on and on, and so he is going to make some flubs. That would be like if my dad or mom went up there and did that.
Or anyone, me. And I mean, like even but at the same time, I don't think that there's a difference between not knowing what you're talking about and rambling. And I feel like there's a difference now where like 8 years ago, it was more, and I've even heard like people are just like, they're kind of boring. It's like the same thing every time. And like there's fewer people showing up at these things because they're just kind of like, what are we doing here? I mean, he was firing people up 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I think Trump's pretty funny, actually. I mean, I think but look, even his nicknames are getting worse. I feel like he's not even good at that anymore. So I don't know. I just feel like with both their cognitive declines and, all the other turmoil that's going on, we could have World War III break out before November, for all we know. And I just think there's a lot of factors that can change those polls really quickly, if that makes sense. So I think the polls are right. I just don't think they're guaranteeing a Trump win in November.
No, but like this is the first time I've been like, maybe he can win. And I have not thought that the whole time. I was like, no, he would lose. He would lose. Like, why would we nominate him? He will lose. Like that was my, like minus all the character flaws and him as a person, like that was my biggest thing. Why?
Yeah, he's that's what I said too.
Because he will lose, and I think he would lose like the Senate and the House.
Yeah,
and like recently, I'm like, maybe he can win because Biden is so bad.
Right, but that's not Trump winning. That's Biden losing.
I understand that, but like
you know what I mean?
I think he won against Hillary because Hillary was like people did not like Hillary so much.
Well, and I think there's a little bit of that there too, because I mean Hillary lost that election by not campaigning in like Michigan and Wisconsin. That's really what it boils down to, is that she thought she had it in the bag and didn't think it was worth going to Michigan to campaign. And I'm not saying that would have definitely won her, but she lost by like 30,000 votes or something. That was not a big margin in Michigan. And so I think that was a little bit of like cockiness, whereas like Biden's just bad at the job. It's really unfortunate that like the specific things that he's been really bad at are also the top two things that voters care about. Immigration and economy, specifically inflation, because the economy is doing okay at this point. But like people can't forget that everything's 15% higher than it was.
No, and I think if you ask someone, they would say the economy isn't better. Like people don't feel that the economy is better.
Right, I think it's mostly because of that, like, I remember what this cost just a few years ago. This isn't me remembering back to 20 years ago and saying, well, when I was a kid, this cost. This is like a few years ago. And so and that's not going to change. So,
yeah. And the first time with Biden and Trump, you couldn't run on Biden's record because he didn't have one.
Right.
And this time you can run on Biden's record.
And it's weird that we have two incumbents that are so weak. I mean, like, they're
loser on loser crime.
I mean, it really is so bad that we're like, I still just can't believe we're heading towards having both these guys be our nominees. Because
if aliens came down, they'd be like, what?
I forget aliens. Other
Bring
countries.
me back to space.
Other countries right now are going, what are y'all doing?
I know. But I even hate to admit this on the podcast.
Go for it. It's fine. Your secret's safe with all of these people.
I don't even know. I listened to Kid Rock on Joe Rogan. Maybe Kid Rock got to me, but like, man, I might vote for Trump only because of immigration. Like, it's got me so fired up lately that I'm like, I truly think it like will continue to ruin our country if Joe Biden, if the immigration continues as it is, and like that would make me vote for Trump.
So how do you feel about Republicans having a border deal that then Trump punts because he wants the issue for this election year?
Oh, disgusting.
Right.
I was disgusted by it. Like, Senator Langford, God bless him. What a good man.
He goes and does the thing that he's asked to do.
Blake, I know. And it's like, hey, Republicans, we don't have the White House and we don't have the Senate. You don't get to make the calls and like whatever bill you want. We have to compromise.
And if you listed the things Republicans were going to get in that bill,
I know.
None of which were amnesty. All of the starting conversations. First of all, there's not been immigration reform since the 80s. We've not changed the laws at all since the 80s, basically. And here's the first real chance, because Democrats and Biden knew they had to get something done because they can see, they're not idiots. They can see that this is a loser of an issue for them.
I know.
And they need to fix it. So, oh my gosh, here's this group of people that have been claiming there's no emergency at the border. There's no problem at the border. First of all, I think that's an insane thing to say when it doesn't matter how you feel about, you can have a different opinion on immigration, totally. You can be a libertarian, open borders kind of person, but you can't, even if you're a libertarian, open borders person, you can't like what's going down at the border. It's all human smuggling and trafficking with cartels, and it's like, it's not a safe way to do what is happening, even if you were an open borders person. So everyone should be outraged about it, I think, and that's just my opinion. It's a problem. It's a crisis.
Look at the girl who was just murdered in Athens, Georgia. Like, that really fires people up.
And look at like New York and Chicago and these cities that are being overwhelmed by, because we're sanctuary cities. All of a sudden they get 160,000 people show up and they're like, oh, actually this might be a problem. Like, they realize it's a problem. So you've got blue cities and blue states all of a sudden changing their tune about immigration a little bit because they see it actually affecting their real lives. Shocker. Yeah. They just thought those people down on the border were
Texas will take care of it,
being cruel or something. And so basically, Democrats realized they had a real problem and they had to sign something. So Republicans were going to get basically what they wanted by holding Ukraine stuff. I'm not saying it's a perfect thing. I'm just saying
it wasn't, but it was going to stop.
On balance, though, they were getting so much more.
Yes, and less. It would have been stopped the flow, not as much, but less people were going to be getting through,
and give the Border Patrol and some resources to and figure out how to fix the asylum system. Because the problem right now is that we are like punting all of this stuff. So even if we wanted to say, look, I think most of the people that are coming here, especially most of them are coming from Central America, not from Mexico. They're coming through Mexico. But
China too now.
Yeah. Now, I don't necessarily like them coming from other countries and then coming to Central America and then coming up. Yeah, because they're coming from like Yemen and Iran and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. Why would you be coming? But we know people on our terrorist watch list have come across the border that we've had encounters with. So there's obviously some people that we haven't had encounters with that we haven't caught. So we know that's happening. We know people.
Drugs.
We know drugs.
Human
smuggling. We know kids. We have to be able to verify that kids that are coming across the border are actually with their real family and it's not some sort of child trafficking situation. We are not doing our job at protecting these people that, like, Venezuela is a terrible country to be in right now. And I don't blame people for fleeing it. And I would welcome them here, but we've got to have a system.
You have to come here legally.
And if we're going to let people claim asylum, right now that's taking like 7 to 10 years because we just don't have the system to handle the amount of people that are coming in. So you either have to shut down the flow or a combination of do that and increase the judges. And I think part of that border deal was going to be that they were going to take some of that away from judges and do it on like these other committees and stuff like that. Because they were like, this is not really something that we have to put in front of a judge. So we've got to fix that stuff. And here was a chance to do it.
And I know.
We will not.
And I will say, I don't think Trump was directing everyone to say, like, shut it down.
Oh, I think he did. Absolutely. He
Really?
came out and said it. Yeah, he came out and said, I don't want Biden to get a win. He said it out loud.
But they were shutting that down before he.
No, but it's because he
already defending
Trump. I know,
no,
because he came out and he said he said he was going to be against it. Probably it was kind of like in the background, and then he basically came out and said it. And
because he saw like all like. Hardcore Republicans being like, this bill is insane.
He started all that stuff. This is absolutely Trump saying out loud he didn't want Biden to potentially get a win on the border. It absolutely was. This is all Trump. That's
did you see
only reason it got mothballed. Who else could have mothballed it?
Langford said, and he did not say it was Trump. He said, like a big conservative voice said, we will not pass this bill because we want it to be an election.
It was Trump.
No,
I'm telling you, it was Trump. He said it.
Okay, I know
I'll try to find the quote,
but I don't think I think Trump probably waited a beat and saw how took the temperature.
When has he ever taken the temperature on anything?
I think he takes the temperature a lot, Blake, because he's not great at politics. So he's going to wait and see oh wait, people aren't happy with this.
I think that's the problem here. He could have claimed it as his victory. Why?
Yeah,
so why not do that?
And I was like, I get what they're coming from. This does help Republicans. I get.
I think that's an incredibly
Blake, I know. I disagree with it. I thought it was a good bill. I thought it should have been passed. I thought, again, God bless Senator Langford from Oklahoma.
But how are we supposed to do this? How will anything ever happen in Congress if that
we got to win the White House?
No, it won't happen.
I mean, Trump being in the White House, though, will help immigration and the border.
But I don't think it will. They will not get another chance to pass actual congressional law border reform.
Right, but
he'll get to sign some executive orders, and remain in Mexico is not going to work anymore because Mexico's not going to play ball with that. So, his biggest contribution to the border that wasn't triggered by a pandemic, like the Title 42 stuff, is remain in Mexico, which basically said if someone's going to come up from Venezuela and they come through Mexico, we are saying, no, you got to wait in Mexico. You're the first country you get to that you can claim asylum in. You either have to claim there or you have to wait in Mexico for us to catch up so that you're not coming here and we're letting you hang out in our country for 7 to 10 years while we wait to do your asylum case. That was what that policy was. But now Mexico's saying they don't want to do that again. So I don't even think that's going to be on the table. And I don't think the chances, even if Trump won the White House and Republicans took the Senate and kept the House, they're going to have the slimmest of margins. They're not going to have 60 votes in the Senate.
Right. But now, and I know, again, this is horrible, but they're not going to stop a bill from being passed, even if it is, not everything that they want.
I think they will, though, because I think they like the purity test more than the problem right now is that the Republican Party and the Democrats are doing the exact same thing. I'm saying the Republican Party just because we're conservatives and we're talking about Republicans more than we're talking about Democrats. But both sides are now so interested in the purity test of
I totally get that.
That I think they'd rather lose. I think they'd rather lose or not get stuff done because it proves that I'm fighting for 100% instead of I don't want to compromise ever. Because basically, Kevin McCarthy loses his job because he tried to work with Democrats.
Yeah, Matt
when
Gaetz.
He had to.
Horrible person.
Right? And so he had no choice. Just like Langford had no choice.
I know.
Just like everyone has no choice because no one's going to get 60 votes in the Senate until one of these parties crumbles, which is certainly a possibility. But we're probably not going to have a 60-seat Senate for, I don't think we'll have one for a while unless something crazy happens. Which crazy things will happen for sure. But I think we're so divided 50-50 at this point.
I agree.
That unless they get rid of the filibuster, which will probably happen because all the institutionalists are gone now that Mitch McConnell's retiring.
R.I.P. Mitch.
I know. He's the only one that cared about the Senate as an organization. Everyone else just thinks they're going to be president someday. I feel like that's in the Senate.
I saw a meme. I sent it to you.
With the dam. And
Mitch McConnell holding the dam.
But it's true. He told Trump, no, I'm not going to get rid of the filibuster and for what he wanted when he was president, and he didn't do it. And I don't know that we have anyone else like that will do that cares more about the institution of the Senate than they care about Trump.
I agree.
And
they don't make him like Mitch anymore.
Right, but what bothers me, And the other thing about Mitch, the other reason I know you're pretty good at your job is when everyone hates you. That's,
totally.
That's like,
but history
you know what I mean?
will tell, and I think history will look back at Mitch McConnell as
I think he was a great Senate leader for sure, and I think he cared about the
Republican,
institution.
Changed this country for the better.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think but he's the villain right now, and so is James Langford, and so is every good Republican that's willing to actually get work done. Name every Republican that's in good standing with Trump, and they basically have no accomplishments whatsoever, because it's more fun to throw bombs at the left, and the left is doing the same thing. It's the same thing with the Squad. I'm not picking on Republicans just because I'm picking on Republicans. Squad's the same way. AOC has done absolutely nothing other than rename post offices and stuff. She's put no bills forward. She's just a big fundraiser and a pretty face, and it's like she and Matt Gaetz are the same thing. They're just in different parties.
I agree.
But there's no real difference between them. And like I think we're just heading towards, if Congress can't pass that border bill, if Republicans won't pass that, I don't see what they'll ever accomplish, because they basically all they got done Trump's first term is the tax thing, and then that's really it. That's the legislative accomplishment.
What do you think about the border wall?
Well, I mean, they got some, but they really didn't build that much border wall either.
I know, but like,
you mean as just like a thing?
I mean, like if he won, like finishing the border wall.
Well, I mean, I don't think putting a wall across the entire southern border of Mexico is actually a smart idea. I don't think I think there are spots that need more border wall and border protection, and we would have gotten it in that bill, by the way.
Blake,
I know.
No.
I just want everyone to know that, like,
but people don't.
This Congress probably would have built more of the wall than Trump did, and I just think it's. So I don't think a wall across the entire southern border is a smart thing. I think it would cost too much money, and it doesn't actually help in a lot of places. You know how most people get here that come here and stay here illegally? They fly here. They fly here on visas, they overstay their visas, and then they don't leave the country.
Right, but those aren't the criminals that are coming through.
No, you're right. But my point is, if you're talking about, if it's just about the immigration and being able to know, I think we should have a system that can track where anyone that's in our country that's not a citizen is. I think that's very fair. I don't think, look, we're letting you come here and work or be a student or whatever, but we get to know where you travel and stuff. Like we're not saying we're going to invade your privacy and hack your phone and stuff, but I mean, I think we should be able to have a system where we know someone came here on a visa, it expires, we know where they are, and we go either make them renew it or kick them out of the country.
Yeah.
Like, and we don't have that system now. And that's where most people that overstay, like most of the illegal immigrants that are in this country are here illegally because they overstayed visas and they did not get here from coming across the southern border. So the wall is certainly something we need in those areas where we are having mass flows of migrants, where Border Patrol is getting overwhelmed and they can't, and people are seeping through because they can't possibly stop. What we're talking about, monthly hundreds of thousands of people that border control, they're having interactions with. So that's not counting the people that they don't have some sort of interaction with. So if your eye is on these 100,000 people that you're having to deal with, and 4 bad guys get in, that's enough. You know
totally.
what I mean?
Again, the girl that got murdered in Athens, Georgia, like that matters. And to me, like, I would rather like hedge my bet with Trump in the border than like continue with Biden.
See, I can't because the border.
Why?
Because the border is not. I think there are worse things. I think Trump will do worse things than fix the border.
Like what?
I think that he hired good people in his first.
Yes, he did.
Okay, so none of those people will not exist.
No.
There will be no good people that he can hire. There will be no good cabinet secretaries. There will be no, it will be the bottom of the most scummy barrel that you could possibly pull out.
I know.
Okay, so the only people that got him those wins, because I'll give him credit for all the things that I like that he did in his first presidency. So, but that was mostly other people. That was like John Bolton and Bill Barr and name the list of people that it was that were like reining him in, who all had to either quit or get fired because at some point they said, you can't do that. That's illegal, or that's a war crime, or whatever. And they had to go, I'm washing my hands of this. There will not be those people, and it will be. I don't want to be a catastrophist and say that the country's going to end. I'm not one of those people. I don't think no matter what happens, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, the country will not end. Yeah. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think our institutions can potentially stop both of them from being totally destructive, but I think Trump wants the destruction. I think Biden is caving to the left and certainly causing some unraveling of it. I mean, like I said, the border is absolutely a problem. I think that most of the left stuff is just absolutely insane. Obviously, I think both these parties could implode at any moment. And I think most people are just against the other party. And so let's just say, for example, the Republican Party split. Let's say that Nikki Haley, Mitt Romney, Mike Pence, all the normal, Mike Gallagher, Ben Sass, all these people that have left the Republican Party, or at least left office in the last 8 years because of Trump, that were grown-ups. Let's say they all split off and made their own party, and it's 1860 again, and you've got a split Republican Party that basically guarantees
Democrats win.
I don't know that they would, because I think most Democrats they're motivated by their hatred of Republicans. And I think Republicans are the same way. It's all about a hatred of the left. And so if the left collapsed, I think you'd have the same problem. It would turn into infighting in the party for control of it. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying I don't think most people care about policy anymore, obviously.
Yeah.
And so what is a Trump presidency even going to do? If people don't care about policy and you've got Congress that's probably not going to be able to do anything, because you're either, if you do win, it's with those kind of performative, I'm trying to find words that I can say that aren't cursing. Or I try not to name call on this podcast. I try not to, because I'm like, even people that I think absolutely deserve it, but I just don't think any of these people are serious. And so I don't see any tax reform bill happening. Because that was all Paul Ryan, and that was Mitch McConnell. I mean, everything that Trump accomplished, he owes to Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. And the people he hired. He really didn't do any of it. Yes, he helped lead it, which is what all the president does really anyways. He's supposed to preside over the Congress and say, here's what I'd like to do, and this is what I'll sign, and this is what I won't. And you're doing that kind of negotiation stuff, but which he claims to be very good at. But I just don't see that we got any great deals. And I just think that I think people will understand pretty quickly that that's what was happening in his first term, was that he hired some good people, to be fair. Now he claims they're not good people anymore. So
I know. Well, but I could see myself voting for him if he picks a VP who I think could
he won't
rein him in, or at least Mike Pence is a good man. If you could pick someone like Mike Pence, I could also have more confidence in voting for him. But I can't even
But is Mike Pence a good man if he didn't do what he did on January 6th? Because I'm not convinced.
I think Mike Pence is a man who loves his country. Yeah,
I think he is, but I think he compromised that over and over and over and over again for Trump until finally it was like,
right,
okay,
but
well, this is too
maybe
far.
he loved his country, and so he was like, I'm going to serve as VP to help Trump.
Yeah, but I think that. And I get that mentality. I'm really on the fence.
Because I think a lot of people did that in the Trump
administration. I think that's what all those people did.
I do too.
I don't think he could have stacked.
So maybe some more people could feel that way.
But I don't think anyone will, because what did, the lesson learned is
I know.
You have no future. So,
yeah, but lesson learned, everyone's voting for Trump right now. Everyone's supporting Trump. So what lesson is learned?
I'm saying, but the lesson learned is that there is no one that escapes. There's no one that escapes. Name one person from the first administration that is not vilified by Trump now. Not just doesn't work for him anymore.
Hicks.
No, I mean he's talked crap on her too.
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure. No, maybe not.
I think they're still tight.
Okay, maybe not. But I feel like everyone got.
Or Lewandowski.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about the bottom of the barrel.
That's what's
That's
left.
What I'm saying. So here's where I think it goes back to Haley, though. I think she understands that there is no future for her in this version of the Republican Party, just because there's no future which sucks. And I think, but I think what she's doing is saying there's no future for me. And instead of just me taking the hit, I'm going to take all of these people with me, kind of thing. It's like, look, these are all people that feel the way we do. This is not just me. This is not just Ron DeSantis. This is not just Chris Christie. This is 40% of, because whatever. By the time we get through this, I mean, realize we're on Super Tuesday, and it looks like by the end of it, she will have gotten somewhere between 20 and 40% of the vote of all the primaries thus far, which we are a third of the way through or whatever. yeah, right, 18, 20 states or whatever. And so to me, that is a big enough chunk that like if all of those people still care about, I mean, I assume that those people don't like Trump not just because of the more, I mean, I could talk for forever just about the moral problems with Trump. Take all of that away and he has no policy. He's not really conservative. I mean, there's no, and I think there's a bunch of people that do care about that stuff still that are going to feel homeless, not to be a plug, but I think that, which is why I've started this thing. It's like, I think there's going to be quite a chunk of people that are like, no, I'm going to stay home.
So that's what I'm saying. So what is she going to do with those people? Like,
well, I don't think there's a future for, I just think she knows that she's going down, so she might as well like go down swinging. I think that what she's figured out is that everyone else that went out with a whimper, it didn't change anything. And so why?
Yeah, but what is Nikki Haley going to change? I guess
I don't think she will, but I think it will. There will be a portion of this party, like I said, 20 to 40%. It doesn't even have to be that much. It could be 10 to 15%, and it could cause the new Trump version of the Republican Party a lot of headaches for a long time. Because if those people bail, because they're already bailing. I mean, like, independents are rising, and Democrats and Republicans are both losing people every year.
Yeah. For
the last 20 years, basically. And it has accelerated since 2016. Eventually, you're going to have whatever. It's like 75% of the country is going to be independents that are going, I don't like either one of these things. But the problem is that we give them a binary choice in November to say, here's your two choices. And a lot of those people go back to whatever they're closest to. Like, you're going like, well, maybe it is worth the border stuff, if nothing else. And I don't blame you for feeling that way. But I don't think as many people will do that this year as they did in 2020 or 2016, including for Biden. I think Biden's got the same problem with the progressive part of his party.
Probably Biden will probably lose more progressives than he did before. Well, because people are so mad about Israel.
And I think he's actually the problem with keep in mind, I'm not some sort of like looking at the numbers. I just read what other people do when they look at it. But I think what Biden, that New York Times poll that came out, I think this week, he basically lost like all these demographics that he won in 2020. He's either losing now or up by like a point where he was up by 12 in 2020. So it's like it's mostly like working class. He's lost black voters. He's lost Hispanic voters. Yeah. He's actually, I think he won Hispanics, and I think he's underwater now on Hispanics.
Yeah, I saw that.
I might be wrong about that. So he's losing demographics across the board in that middle part, but he's also losing, the far left wing. Now, I think the far left wing is going to come back for him more than the right comes back for Trump because
their hatred for Trump.
Yeah, their hatred for Trump. Like, I don't think that most of the 40% that voted for Nikki Haley, I think they realized Joe Biden did a terrible job and he's too old to be the president, but they think he's too old. They don't think that he's gonna ruin the country. They don't think he's gonna like try to stage a coup. I mean, Trump tried to stage a coup, right?
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
Like, I know. It would pain me to vote for him.
Yeah.
Pain me.
I mean, good news is your vote doesn't actually matter at all in this state. That's going to go completely red for him no matter what happens. He could murder our governor and people would still vote for him in November. I think that people
me and my soul would know, Blake.
No, I know. But my point is that's what I'm saying. You don't have to do it. You just don't have to do it. Like, it's fine. You don't have to sell your soul because it won't matter this year.
I got to vote.
Well, you can vote for everyone else.
Kennedy?
No, I mean, I think there will be a no labels thing.
Okay. What do you think about Joe Manchin? If Joe Manchin...
Well, he's not. He already said he's not going to do it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks. I think it's maybe this week. He came out and said he will not do it.
Michelle Obama just said today.
She said also, which I've said, there's no way Michelle Obama's going to do this. Why would you want to?
Oh, I know. I know.
The only reason people are like fantasizing about Michelle Obama is because the truth is Joe Biden got himself in a mess because he did a diversity hire for a vice president and said, it's going to be a black woman. That's the first two qualifications you have to be. So to not piss off that part of the base, which is funny because this is not black people he's making mad. She polls worse with black people than he does, okay?
She's so bad.
It's like white liberals that he's going to piss off if he gets rid of her as VP.
Yep.
And so they're trying to, but if we replace both of them with Michelle Obama, that solves all of our problems.
Yeah.
I think it's just a pipe dream. It's not, it's like.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it was ever serious.
No, but. and there's no they either. I mean, like, Biden would have to step down. I still think something will happen. I do not think this is a straight line from here to November. I don't think that we're just going to, like, everything's going to be like a normal campaign. I think that...
Oh, I think Biden will be their nom. Unless something happens to him.
He would have to be the person that steps down. I don't think they will replace him. But I don't think
he will step down. There's no way. Like, he wants to be president again.
But what if he had an incapacitating...
Like, he does have an incapacitated... We are already there.
Right, we are. But, like... You know what I mean? He's in the hospital. He has
been in the hospital.
A stroke on stage. I'm just saying, like, same thing with Trump. Like, there's always a level that we haven't gotten to yet.
Maybe if there's a stroke, but, like, other than that, like, he's going to be their nom. He's not going to let anyone else take over. No matter what. No matter what he's pulling, no matter what is going on, he is going to be the nom.
What's insane to me is that both of these guys had the chance to go down as sort of heroes of their party, but like, that will not happen no matter what, because if
Trump would have stood behind DeSantis, I would have loved him.
Right.
I'd have been like, all is forgiven.
Or what if Trump had come out and been like, look, I did what I said I was going to do. I built a wall. I mean, even though he didn't really build the whole wall, but whatever. I built the wall. I beat Hillary Clinton. I got tax reform. I got your Supreme Court justices. Peace out. I'm retiring. Yeah. Now, I still would not like him, but most people would be like, yeah. Okay. And same thing if Biden said, I built the bridge that I said I was going to build in the next generation. I did X, Y, Z. I did this. I beat Trump. I kept him out of office, blah, blah, blah. I'm handing this over to someone else. First of all, if the other person was still in the race, it would be a bloodbath in November. You replace Trump with Nikki Haley. You think Super Tuesday was boring this year? November would be boring. She'd win by 15 points. They'd sweep the House.
That's why I was such a big DeSantis girl.
Right. Same thing with Biden. If Biden stepped down and pick it, doesn't matter who it is.
Newsom
would absolutely crush Trump. There's no way. And even, if it's someone like Newsom, who I absolutely don't like, but he would crush Trump. He absolutely would. He would mop the floor with him, especially someone he's a talented politician.
Yes.
Would absolutely, and can speak a sentence. He would murder Trump. So both these guys are not only being selfish, they're also potentially like, I don't want to say like destroying the parties, but I mean, they are.
Oh, Trump has for sure destroyed
I think the Republican Party will, if he loses,
then I think we also like lose the House.
I think Republicans lose for the next 8 years.
Oh.
And that's what I really think is think about it. Okay, if he loses,
those are like my golden years. For that to happen in my golden years.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think Democrats, if either party just figured out that wait a minute, we could just be adults and grown-ups and we would just you would dominate, but they won't. Neither side are doing that. But I mean, if even without the Democrats getting their act together, if Trump loses in November and then does the election was stolen from me nonsense and continues, he will never dig his claws out of this party until he dies.
Then maybe we should just support him, Blake.
No, that's not the solution. It's a bad solution because I think we'll regret it. I really think we'll regret it. We've sold our souls. We've sold everything we care about. We've sold
I know, but
he's on the fringe of being pro-abortion, pro-gun control. He's not even a Republican. That. Yeah, he's said out loud. I mean, he's said out loud that like the abortion. He's trying to, of course, part of it is he's trying to blame the abortion stuff and the Dobbs stuff
on the losses,
which is not, or blame the losses on that. And it's really because he was backing really bad candidates.
I know, but
my point is he's going to dig his heels into that, and like so he's abandoning the pro-life movement. He's abandoning most of any kind of even hint of conservatism.
Okay, Blake, if he could get 5 capable people in his cabinet, 5.
Yeah.
Could you get on board?
No. Because he will screw those people too. Those people will not ever really be able to do anything. Like, the thing is, I promise you, in 2016 when he got elected, I remember having a conversation with my friend who was, it was like 2 a.m. and it was like, this is crazy. None of us thought this was going to happen. I was like, he could actually change some stuff. Like, he could get in there and really shake stuff up. And he does have the personality where he can do that. If his motivation was to go in there and shake stuff up and actually drain the swamp, if he had the motivation to do the things he says he wants to do, then I think he could have done those things. The problem is he actually only cares about himself and absolutely nothing else.
I agree, Blake.
Does not care about this country. The way he talks about people in the military is gross.
I know, Blake.
To insinuate that Nikki Haley's husband is embarrassed to be on the trail with him when he's stationed in Africa is gross.
I agree, Blake.
So why should that guy lead the military? I don't trust him to. And I don't trust the way he likes dictators. The Russia stuff is real now. It was just a thing we were talking about in the 2010s. You know, I mean, it's hilarious to me now that Mitt Romney gets vilified and made fun of by Barack Obama for saying Russia is our biggest adversary right now. And then you don't even have to fast forward 10 years to be Russia invades Ukraine. That's a whole problem, obviously. And I don't trust that Putin's not nuts and won't do something crazy. I don't think Trump can hold him at bay because I don't know that anyone can, to be fair. I mean, I think Russia's kind of a loose cannon, more so than China. I think China's very calculated, whereas I think Russia's a little bit more, I think he's kind of like these two guys that we've got in our country right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of unpredictable. So no, I think that for the things that he would make better, yes, I know his executive actions on the border would be better than Biden's because they already were. We got to already see what happened.
Yes.
But I don't trust his economic stuff. He wants to put a 10% tariff on every import. It would crush our economy if he did that. And if he puts a bunch of yes men in any, whether it's in his cabinet or it works for him at the White House, or he gets people elected to Congress and Senate that follow his bidding and they pass something like that because he says they should, because there's no more adults that say, hey, this is actually a really bad idea and will be really bad for our economy. I think Trump could single-handedly, like, I don't normally like to give presidents blame or credit for economy stuff, but if the president pushed for a 10% tariff on all imports and it hurt our economy, like, really bad, I would be like, yeah, that's on you. And so he just has, when he does have a policy position, it's so bad. It's not just, like I said, I could take all the moral stuff away. The fact that he even tried to stage a coup to steal an election.
Right.
I could take all that away and I still wouldn't even like the policies he has because I think they're that dangerous. Now, I think they're the exact same as Biden's. Biden, like, they have a lot of similarities. And when people say that, like, Biden's going to tank the country, I'm not convinced of it because I'm like, yeah, he has the same tariff policy as Trump, and he has the same, picket. It's like Trump, for Biden, it's student loan forgiveness. That's his thing because that's his constituency. He wants to, like, give 13% of the country that has student debt because they're his voters, just like Trump did with farmers or whoever. It's the same thing. It's still $28 billion that goes out the door. It's just like, which group is it going to? I think both are bad policies. And I think both of their spending got us in the inflationary situation we're in right now. I think Trump's was bad and Biden made it much, much worse.
Yeah.
Trump had to do some of what he did
because of COVID.
Yeah. He didn't have to do all of what he did because of COVID. And I really don't think he handled COVID well either.
No, I don't either. I think that's why
So I'm like, I can't find anything he did well enough that I'm like, yeah, he was so sound on economic stuff or he's so sound on whatever. Because even the judges stuff, when people are like, well, we've got the judges, I'm like, that was the Federal Society.
I was going to mention that. I know, but he listened to the Federal Society and McConnell.
But he won't now.
How do you know that?
Because he had to in 2016, because he knew someone smart came to him and said, you can't joke about putting your sister-in-law on the Supreme Court. There's a bunch of people that take this very, very seriously, and you will not win without them, which is why Mike Pence was vice president, by the way. I mean, like, he got picked because look at this sane evangelical Christian governor from Indiana.
So you don't think there's anyone in Trump's camp that's smart enough now to...
No one. Because otherwise they'd rein him in right now. All he has to do is shut up to win in November, and he won't do it. Right? If he was listening to anyone, he would just let Joe Biden be old and keep making mistakes, and Trump would go start doing basement campaigns. Right?
I know. No, like, I know. I'm trying to talk myself into it.
I know. I don't blame. I get it. I understand that people are going to be like, but look at the two choices. And I just think that we've got to, at some point, go, we're done with the two choices. And I also think there's like, the best way I've heard it written about is it's like a hostage situation. Basically, Trump and the MAGA people are like holding everyone else hostage in the Republican Party and saying, if you don't do what we want, we're gonna kill you. I mean, that's essentially what they're saying. And we keep going along with it by, okay, well, I guess I'll vote for him in 2016. I guess we'll do it in 2020. And we excuse the stolen election stuff. And the fact that 85% of Republicans think the election was stolen in 2020 makes me want to pull all of my hair out, because
I know
you have to be, and this is where I'm struggling here. And you tell me what you think I should do. So when I started this podcast, I was like, okay, I want to persuade people. Like, part of it I think that people aren't doing, there's no nuance. They're never saying like, well, here's why this is complicated. They're just trying to say it's black and it's white and it's good and it's bad and it's us versus them. And there's no nuance whatsoever. Like, the border stuff is a great example of like, there's a lot of nuance that goes into the border policy stuff. And so you have to talk about that stuff. And I feel like most people don't. And then there's persuasion. I just don't feel like anyone's ever trying to persuade someone on like, well, have you thought about this, when it comes to this policy or something. And so part of me, like when I started this, was like, okay, I would love to, not that I think I have some sort of reach or something like that. I'm just saying, like, how do I want to talk to people? Do I want people that support Trump to like maybe listen to, like, can I persuade them to at least admit that, like, here's some things you don't like about him and like here's why there's some downsides to him? Like, I'm not saying I'm going to get someone to switch and be anti-Trump or something all of a sudden. But now I'm sort of like, I think I just want to say, screw anyone that voted for him in the primary. Because it's your own fault if you're that ignorant and you don't know that the election wasn't stolen in 2020 and you don't know that what he says is mostly BS, and you don't know that like his policies are bad and like what they would mean for you, and like you don't know that like some of the things that affected those price problems that you're blaming Biden for are really Trump's fault. There's a lot of stuff where I just kind of want to go, I don't know. I'm throwing my hands up and saying, I think that those people are, until
Lost,
something really
gone.
bad happens, like really bad, like we have to get attacked. We have to be in World War III. It has to be worse than anything that's happened thus far.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine, like I said, the Republicans have generally been the party that supports the military and is more pro defense and defense spending and stuff like that. So to vote for a guy that says the gross stuff he says about the military, to me,
They don't believe that, Blake.
I know, but like he said it.
Blake, I know.
He said the Nikki Haley thing on a microphone. What do they think? What's their excuse?
I don't know. Blake, they don't believe that though. Like,
I know, but that's what my problem is that I just want to write off all those people. And
I think you should, because they're not going to ever come to the realization.
And there's the same group of people on the left too. It's like you can't convince them of anything once they've set their mind to whatever, pick whatever silly subject it is. I just don't know that we can get past like, this is, I just wonder what will happen if Trump wins. I think there's a higher percentage chance of there being like an actual like problem. I think like with democracy, I think that you could see, because we already had it. Like, this is not theory. This is like in 2020 when he lost, he staged a coup and there was a riot at the Capitol. And this is not me theorizing what could happen. I think that can happen again. And I don't know that he'd ever leave. And I don't know that he already wanted to do so much illegal stuff in his first term that those adults around him said no to, that I worry what he would do, whereas Biden, I just worried that like he's too old and I think he's going to die. And I don't think he has the cognitive ability to be the president of the United States. I'm worried about like what happens if you wake Biden up at 2 a.m. because Russia did something crazy.
Right. Or Kamala taking over.
Kamala Harris. Yeah. Because Kamala Harris is absolutely
scary.
Yeah. She's just completely inept. I think she's in the same problem. Look at her staff turnover. I don't think she could hire anyone that would be good. Well, she'd have a better chance than Trump could at this point.
Because people just want to be in the White House.
Because people want to be in the White House. And so she'd probably have some people, but she has such high staff turnover her whole career that I don't think that would change much at the White House either. But if Biden picked someone sane, just like a normal, if he would have picked Amy Klobuchar, I'd be like, I don't know if it'd be enough for me to vote for him.
Blake, I can't believe you're even saying that.
But I just want like a normal adult. I want a boring president. That's what I really want. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah, I think it is at this point.
I think it probably is.
I think it is.
That's just never going to happen.
I'm going to wait to see who he picks for Veep.
Who do you think it'll be? I mean, it might be someone we aren't even talking about.
You know, he mentioned Abbott, and then Abbott, if he would have picked, like, if Abbott would have been Veep, I'd vote for Trump.
Abbott
tomorrow.
would never take that job.
I know.
That's the thing is, I don't think anyone.
I know. I agree, Blake. Although I think Tim Scott would.
No, he would take that job. But
and I think Tim Scott's a good person.
I love Tim Scott, but I like him a lot less now.
I do too, Blake, but I would feel more comfortable voting for Trump if Tim Scott were Veep.
I still couldn't because I think he's a total sellout. I mean, his little thing with standing back behind him at whatever that primary was.
I know, it was embarrassing.
It's really embarrassing. And
I know.
The thing is, Trump loves to humiliate. Like, Trump did that on purpose.
I know.
And it's the same thing with Ted Cruz, like, coming back after the things he said about his wife and dad. I would never, ever. And the thing is, I think Haley, here's what's interesting to me as a guy, okay? And you're a woman, so I feel like this is an interesting thing.
I am.
You are a woman. We confirmed. Okay. So, Nikki, have you noticed it's only women that'll stand up to Trump? Those are the only people that'll do it. The guys have no balls. No balls. Everyone that has stood up to Trump at some point has come crawling back.
Are you talking about in the Republican Party?
Yeah. Lindsey Graham, Tim Scott, Ted Cruz. I mean, the awful things he said about, like, all these people, Marco Rubio, like, pick it. Every guy is like...
Chris Christie.
Okay.
He gives it to him.
But like mostly it's women that have done it and still been standing at the end of it. And so I almost wonder if Nikki Haley's just actually got more balls than any of these guys do and is going to be the person that goes like, no, screw it. I'm going to keep saying, because she still is hedging on, like, I mean, the other day she said something like along the lines of, I think if we elect Trump, it's like suicide for our country.
Yeah.
That's not like a thing you can walk back when you're, I know stuff happens people say things in the primary all the time, but that's a little different than the normal, like.
I at one point thought she might be his Veep, like but then, like, as things continued, I was like, oh, no. Like,
well, here's the thing is, electorally, it would be genius to pick her because they would probably win.
I know.
But he can't do it because he's.
The things he said. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And she wouldn't take it at this point.
No, I don't think, there's no way.
But
I'm just curious why you think that happens. Is that it's like it seems to be it's like her and you've had a few other people too. It's like the whoever the young girl is that was the staffer that testified against him and had all this stuff. She's like 25.
Yeah, and
she had more balls than any of the people that worked for him directly to come out and be like, no, this is what happened. And like, I don't know. Why can't I think of her name? Hutchinson, Casey, Cassidy, something like that. I can't remember her name. Anyway, the point is, I think Nikki will just go, I realize I'm done, just like Mitt Romney and all these other guys are done.
And Daddy DeSantis.
And so I might as well go out doing what I think is principally correct. And Ron, I think, will also not touch this administration with a 10-foot pole. Because I think you realize it's...
Of course not. No. And no.
I could see Trump trying to... here's the thing. I think when you say, like, who do you think... Can you get 5 people in his cabinet that are decent? I think he would ask 5 decent people, and they will say, oh, no, I'm governor or what. I mean, they will find an excuse. They won't, like, insult him and not take the job. But they will, and it probably will never be public. It'll be like, we'll float stuff behind. But like, I think Ron DeSantis knows at this point that if he wants any future in politics, that he should just finish his governor term and then find something else to do.
Run for president.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't even know if he can do that now. Because I mean, like, the Trump world's kind of turned on him too. It's like,
oh, they will come back around.
I don't know that but when have people?
Well, I also think that the reason that Ron endorsed Trump is because he said, if you'll endorse me, No,
I mean, I think he knew he had to do that. And people endorsing Trump at this point that are Republican politicians, I still think it's cowardly, but I don't think they really mean it most of the time. Does that make sense? I think most of them...
He could have endorsed Haley. He could have endorsed no one.
He wasn't going to do that.
I know he was going to do Haley, but
wants to be in the good graces, but he doesn't want to go work for him, I bet.
No.
So, like, the point is, I don't think there is an adult in this country that wants to. And so that's going to be... And I also think it's going to be funny because I don't think it'll just be dangerous. I think it'll also be incredibly inept. And I think his White House will not be able to accomplish anything. I think it'll be chaos. I think it was already chaos.
Yeah, I think it'll be chaos.
So I think that we're signing up for that no matter what. I think you're signing up for, if you vote for Trump, you're voting for chaos. I mean, you want that, essentially. And most of his followers do. They actually want
I know.
the crazy game show, reality show, because we've replaced religion with politics. And that seems like a bad thing to do.
I used to watch Tucker every night when Trump was president.
We haven't even talked about Tucker's fall from grace.
Oh my gosh. Oh my men.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have bad taste in men, because Jason, your husband's a great guy. But
I remember I think I even said on this podcast that if Tucker told me to go to the end of like meet me at the end of this like bridge, I'd be like, when and where?
But I mean, Tucker, I think
Blake, I can't even talk about it. I don't know what happened. I mean, what I've heard from people talk that is like it's all about money.
I would think that, except that there seemed to always be this grift going on with him, which is the reason I didn't like him. And because I think he's actually a really smart guy.
I think he is too.
But I think, the way he was playing dumb sometimes was like, yeah, you're doing that on purpose. I'm just asking questions about well, what if, yeah, well, I mean, you're asking questions that are, the answer to, and you're just pretending to be a journalist. It's like journalist cosplay kind of thing. But this Russia thing actually seemed like real. I think you can't spew that stuff enough without eventually believing it. I think Donald Trump's the same way. I don't think he actually believed the election was stolen on November 10th of 2020. I think that he started that narrative and then eventually only surrounded himself with people that would tell him that same thing, and eventually bought his own BS.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Tucker's in the same situation now, because I watched that Russia thing and you're just like, have you lost your mind? This is not just like Democrat Republican stuff. You are propagandizing for a brutal dictatorship.
I know.
And also, it was so easy. It wasn't even clever. The grocery store thing, you're everyone was Russians are super poor, right? They, our economy is, I think I did a short about it. I was Mississippi, which is our poorest state in the country.
They make more than.
They make, I think it's 4 times as much or something. I think the average Russian makes $15,000 US dollars, and Russian, or average Mississippi, or the whatever, is 49,000, the GDP or whatever. Well, he's a journalist or whatever, and he thought that we couldn't figure that out, and there's some really basic stuff that I think
even his stuff on Israel,
the Israel stuff's also crazy. Yeah,
that would I don't know what happened. I guess I do believe he believes some of that.
He has to at this point.
But man, what a fall from grace. It makes me really sad.
And I do think there was a money thing for sure at some point. I mean, it was just about
but
this is my audience.
He didn't have to do that because he had I think he has to be losing some of his audience.
Oh, he absolutely has lost. I mean, he's not getting 3 million people to watch him every day like he was when he was at Fox. And that's what all these Fox people that thought they were bigger than the network end up figuring out, is that they're not. It's happened over and over again.
Yeah. Tucker, I used to love you. It makes me really sad. And I'm going to have to find a new boyfriend, I guess.
I don't know who it's going to be.
Elon.
It's Elon. See,
what was
Elon's
I
just
thinking?
a troll,
Elon,
too.
I'm so sorry. You are my boyfriend.
Oh, gosh.
My long-term boyfriend. Love of my life, Elon Musk. Yeah.
I just wonder, I mean, obviously, I'm not even making predictions at this point, because my predictions are normally wrong. Although I've been right about a couple of things, I guess. But I just think it's so impossible to know what's going to happen between now and November that I can't, going back to the polls and stuff, I don't know. I would think right now Trump has a little bit of an edge, just because of all the things going bad for Biden. But I do think that the two things that can change is I don't think Israel will be at war with Hamas the way they are right now in November. That's not going to, at the pace that they've been doing stuff, it's not going to be still going on at that point.
Agree.
So that's not going to be a bugaboo for his progressive base
but I
as
think
much.
they won't forget.
You say that, but do you think that will if that war is not active and hot, and they've got the choice between Joe Biden, who supported Israel,
and
it's no longer active, or Donald Trump, who they think is... Now, I realize they're not going to vote for Trump, but like, I don't think as many progressives will stay home as Republicans.
I don't think Trump is going to win because the progressives that are like pissed off at Biden about Israel.
Especially because the one state that Biden is actually winning in those polls is Pennsylvania, which has a large Jewish population. So that's actually kind of interesting because that's actually the one thing that's like,
that is interesting.
Biden's hanging on by the skin of his teeth. But like, Biden probably loses even in like a place like Michigan that has a high, like really high Muslim concentration. They're really concentrated in counties.
Yeah.
So, he might lose that county, but he's probably not going to lose the whole state potentially because of it.
Right.
And I just don't think we know enough at this point, but I do think it will be a disaster either way. I mean, that's the one prediction I'm going to I feel pretty confident to make is like, if Biden gets elected, I think there's no way he doesn't either become incapacitated or die in office in his second term. I've seen how he's aged in the last year and 2 years and 4 years and 10 years. I mean, you look back at clips of him from like 2012 vice presidential debates, and you're like, he was a gaffe machine then, but like
he still was sharp. I thought at that age.
Sharp. Yeah. It was a debate. It was like them, and when he would make a mistake, he'd correct it. Like he'd say the wrong thing, but he'd get the right name or the right. Like that's not happening now.
No, he's not weekend at Bernie's. Like
no.
Now he is.
And Trump's a little bit like that too. Like I think his ramblings recently have been really concerning too. And so I think that no matter what, we will have a disaster on our hands. Oh, because also if Biden wins, Trump is going to claim the election is stolen. I think that you're going to have some sort of violence. I just don't think that all you need is one crazy person. And they're both catering so much to those crazy people and spewing all sorts of stuff about, Biden's already going full Hitler with Trump.
Yeah.
Which I think is a mistake. I don't think that they have to highlight that.
I agree. I don't like when anyone really uses that.
Well, because they've tried it on every Republican,
yeah.
And it's already just the boy who cried wolf. So you might want to try something more original. But so I don't know what'll happen. But I mean, I do wonder if what will happen in the Senate and the House. That's what I'm more interested in, just to see where the dynamics of that are. Because at this point, I'm hoping for a divided government. That's all I'm hoping for. Is like I don't want either party to control both houses in November, because no matter what, that helps no matter who wins the presidency, in my opinion, because someone's got to rein both of them in. Like, I don't trust Biden with his catering to the left. I think that he thinks that progressive part of his base is bigger than it is. It's just because it's in his entire White House staff.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And all the elites and stuff, but it's not really most of the country.
Right.
And Trump's a little bit of the same way. I mean, I think they think that like this MAGA is this domination and this online kind of MAGA world, and that's not most people.
Yeah.
And so I really just I mean, that would be the thing that I will probably hope for is like just if Republicans keep the House, Democrats keep the Senate, or it flips vice versa, so that no one has, because I think that we will get nothing actually accomplished that we need to do, because we've got, by the way, we're going to be at the end of the next president's term. We're going to be 5 years away basically from Social Security being insolvent. Like that is going to happen. There's no, this is not a trick. This is like, I've heard people on the left say that that's just Republicans lying. It's not really going to happen. It is like it's in law. It will happen if we don't change something about it. And both Biden and Trump are saying we won't touch it. We will not touch Social Security because they're going to be dead in 2033 when it goes insolvent. And what will happen in 2033, if that happens, you either have to change the income that comes into that, or you have to cut, I think it's 26% across the board. So all benefits will just drop. So if you are retired and you were used to getting $1,000 a month, you are going to get 25% less than that. You're going to get $750 a month. Like that will shock people into action.
This is like a doomsday podcast now, Blake.
I know, but it's not really. This is not me being like saying World War III is going to happen, or like Russia's going to.
You did mention.
Well, I mean, I said it could, but I mean, because I think Putin's a little nuts. But I mean, I don't think Putin's actually going to launch nuclear weapons in the space to take out our satellites, but that could happen. I'm not like trying to doomsday that kind of stuff. I'm saying Social Security is definitely going to be insolvent in 2033 if we don't change anything about it. And that will be a shock to the political system that I think will maybe knock us out of this apathy, but I don't really see anything knocking us out of that before that, and that's 9 years away. So,
well, I'm gonna wait and see.
Yeah. You're more optimistic than I am, probably.
I am. I mean, I'm not gonna put like my heart and soul into this next, because he could lose, and like I can't go through that again. And I might like even the House and Senate, like I don't even know if I can get into that, because like midterms again like broke my heart. But you know, I probably will vote for Trump, and like I guess hope he wins.
I can't do it.
I know.
That's fine if you can.
I'm disappointed in myself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to be disappointed in yourself. Like I said, it's not really going to make a big difference where we live specifically. You know, either way, whether you vote or not.
Like I have to live with my children, okay?
He's going to win. Yeah, I know, but like that's why I'm going to be like, yeah, I didn't vote for that guy. I'm going to be able to, and I get that a lot of people want to.
But like I think if he won, would he have like bozos and clowns in his? Yeah. But like I think we could like put her on for 4 years and be okay. I think it wouldn't be like doomsday stuff.
See, I feel like that's more of what would happen if Biden wins. I think that if Biden wins,
think that could happen with Trump. I think he could get a couple of like decent people in there, and like we could just kind of sputter along, maybe get Jared Kushner back in, like.
His kids aren't even touching him with a 10-foot pole.
I know, Blake. I'm hoping Jared Kushner will come back in.
No, they won't. I mean, because I think they realize, like, man, this is actually going to affect our bottom line by changing. And plus, he might be broke by then, too. We haven't even talked about all that stuff.
Although his legal stuff is looking good.
Well, it's not looking good. It's looking like he's got the best enemies because they're inept.
Idiots.
They're idiots.
It's looking the best that it could look probably for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he will go. The New York trial will happen next month, or this month, I guess. That's a sham anyway, and shouldn't even be a thing.
Yep.
And I will happily say that it was a ridiculous notion that all of it. It's all a joke. The fact that was the first one kind of ruined the rest of them. I think the documents case was very, very strong, but it probably won't happen.
Yeah, timing.
Because of timing. And the other problem with it is that the Justice Department gave Biden essentially a pass because he's old and has bad memory. And Biden's justification for having that stuff was that Reagan did. And he's not wrong about that. So Trump has a point when he says they only came after me for these documents. They haven't gone after previous people. Now, the difference is that Trump had actual classified documents. Yeah. Joe Biden had notebooks of his personal notes that had classified information in those notebooks, and Ronald Reagan had the same thing and kept them. And even at one point, they took Ronald Reagan's back because they needed it for some sort of investigation or something for his notes. They took him back, and they gave him back to him. So the National Archives gave back the classified information to Ronald Reagan, and then Biden said, yeah, other people have done this. Reagan did this, and that's why I did it. I thought it was fine. They're my notes. They're not classified documents. Trump's going to get to say, the Justice Department has different standards for me than they do for other people. And I don't think he's completely wrong. And I think there's a big difference there in the sense that they were like, hey, can we have those back? Those are classified documents. And he said no, and he tried to hide them and all the obstruction stuff. But yeah, I don't think that he's going to be a convicted criminal anywhere other than potentially New York, which is a joke because, like I said, it's a misdemeanor charge that they're trying to elevate to a felony. It's a misdemeanor charge that they shouldn't even be able to charge because it's past the statute of limitations. And I don't think that there's a there. And they might not be able to convince a jury of it either because it's a really weird situation. But yeah, I think criminally he's going to come out on top. And what's funny about it is that he'll get to claim it was all a witch hunt. And that's not really what happened. What really happened is this Fonnie Willis thing in Georgia. She's going to have this affair and it might get her off the case. And then that's going to get punted. And the documents case is just a timing thing.
Helping Trump. All of that
helps him because he has really bad enemies that are so foolish to think that they can like go after him like that. And without like checking their own, like the affair thing in Georgia is just hilarious to me because I'm like, why would you?
It also is sad. It just shows like what an incompetent person that was elected. Like this is who's your like.
I'm actually leaning towards now with both the New York and the Georgia thing that like I'm not sure we should be electing DAs.
I don't think so either.
Because I think the political motivations are really doing some gross stuff to the people that we're supposed to trust to be like, hey, we expect you to bring cases that are, because like what I want in a DA is like, I want you to bring a case if there's a case, and I don't want you to if there's not. Don't waste our tax. But what we're seeing is that like it's between, so those are two cases where people, the New York one would be like, this guy ran on like, I'm going to do something about Trump. And then he wins. And so this is a play to his base.
Yeah,
and
totally. He has to do this.
Fonnie Willis puts up a fundraising website the day before she announces the RICO charges on Trump. That looks really shady. It looks like you are fundraising off of this prosecution. And then we see the opposite of that happening in like some California towns where they're like not going to prosecute crimes because we're for this defund the police stuff. I think it's all weird and gross because it's all about politics and it's about being reelected. And meanwhile, you're affecting like real people's lives.
Yeah.
And so that brings up a whole nother thing where I'm just like, gosh, should we be electing DAs? I'd rather than be like appointed and be able to be like fired or impeached or whatever. But like, it feels like maybe there's something. I think we can have too much democracy. I'm in my older age. I'm starting to figure out that like, maybe we shouldn't leave everything up to voters. Maybe voters are idiots.
Voters are idiots. So
that's a hard problem to solve.
Should we end at that? Voters are idiots.
Voters are idiots, basically. Which is, that it is our responsibility. I wish it all comes back to voters. That's what sucks about all of this is that like, if voters were responsible, and I'm not saying everyone has to be a political junkie. Like you and I, we really like this stuff. Me even more so than you. I don't expect most people to be like you and me. I think you can be very, very, just checking in, like the headlines that are going to bubble up, that are going to be important to know about, and make informed decisions. I just don't think most of the country is doing that right now.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and we've got a primary system that
people don't read newspapers anymore. People get their news from social media.
Right. Which...
Very shrewd.
Which, I wouldn't even have a problem with people getting it from social media if they were getting it from a sort of balanced social media.
Yeah.
That wouldn't even bother me. I get a lot of news from social media.
I know, yeah, Twitter.
Because it's a great place for, there's just like that much more effort that has to go into it than the chyron at the bottom of CNN that says breaking news for everything. Everything's breaking news. But yeah, I don't so much have a problem with getting news from anywhere. Now, I think people that get their news specifically exclusively from TikTok is a problem specifically because you've got a Chinese situation there where there's, I think, some nefarious things going on for sure, which I think someone did just introduce a bill this week to ban it. I don't think it's going to happen, but
I want it to be banned.
Yeah, but we should have done it in 2017 when there was like no one on it instead of waiting till, it's the biggest social media app and
I want it out.
Yeah, but I think but like all comes back to voters. Voters could solve this problem by showing up and nominating someone other than Trump or Biden, or people could show up and say, I'm not going to vote for either one of them. I'm going to vote. The third party has a legitimate chance this year.
Agree.
By legitimate chance, I just mean like to make a difference in the race. I don't think they could win, but they could if voters were like not so loyal to these two parties that are just like abandoning even the principles that those voters care about.
Right.
Sorry. I didn't mean to say voters are dumb, but maybe we are. Maybe it's all our fault.
I think it is.
Because if Congress is broken, we're the people that send people to Congress.
Yeah.
So, it kind of does all come back to us. And I'm including me in it. I don't think I'm a dumb voter.
Me too.
But I think we could do better.
I agree.
We could elect someone as our nominees that aren't better. 80.
Yeah.
We could even go for 70 right now. I would take a 70-year-old.
Oh, would love it.
But like a 60-year-old would be like a teenager to me. I'd just be like, wow, a 60-year-old. That would be amazing right now.
That's why Ron would have made such a good president.
He's not even 60. He's like 50.
I know. That's what I mean.
He's young.
He could have 8 years. Anyway.
No, yeah, we could have nice things, but no.
No.
All right. Well, we'll check back in, I don't know, some point when something else crazy happens.
Yeah, we'll check in on my Trump journey.
Okay. Thanks for coming on, Mackenzie.
Thanks, Blake.
See ya. Thanks so much for joining me and my neighbor Mackenzie on today's episode of The Homeless Conservative. Your time is actually very valuable, I realize this, and I'm grateful that you chose to spend some of it here with us. If If you liked what you heard, consider rating the podcast or sharing it with a friend that you think might feel the same way as we do, sort of politically homeless, hence the title. It really does help. This conversation does not have to be one-sided, though. I am keen to hear from you. So feel free to reach out on Instagram and YouTube at The Homeless Conservative, or send me an email at blake@thehomelessconservative.com. Your input does mean a lot. I'll talk to you next time.